Okay, it's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. Good morning. My name is Laurie Prewandowski. I'm the technology integrator for one of the technology integrators for the Kearsarge Regional School District. I work in the middle school and the high school. I'm also a Google certified trainer. So what I'm going to do today is just go through some ways that you can use Google Classroom to enhance communication. This is for remote learning, but this is also for every day in the classroom. So I wanted to start out in the chat section. I put something in there that the New Hampshire Learning Alliance wanted us to say, which is that these webinars are being brought to you by New Hampshire Learns Remotely Alliance. And so they also have a link to put in for what other webinars you might want to have be presented. And also I put in my handout for today so that you can take that, you can make a copy of it, you can share it with anybody else in your district, you can mash it up to however it's going to work for you. And just to let you know that I was asked to record this so that in case they wanted to store this and show it for people who couldn't make it but that would want to watch it later. So I'm actually going to share my screen because I'm going to be in Google Classroom and working through everything that's in my handout so you can see it live, and we will go from there. Hopefully more people will join, but I'm just going to share my screen. And so now what you're seeing is the test Google Classroom that I created so that I wouldn't use real student information. And what I want to start out with first is making sure that we set up a few things. So when you get into your Google Classroom, what you're going to be looking for is you're going to want to make sure that you have some things set up. So when I am in the Google Classroom, I want to make sure that I have Guardian summaries turned on so that I can see my parent information here and all of that. So I have a student Google Classroom, like I have a student in that same Google Classroom so that I can show you what that looks like as well. So I'll be kind of going back and forth between those. So in Google Classroom, what you're looking for is your gear. And so what I want to do is just move this out of the way. So here, when you click on the gear, there's a couple of things you want to make sure that you have set. So in your Google Classroom, when you click on the gear, you can change the class code if you don't like the one that's there because people can't tell if it's an I or an L. You can change that. The other thing I want to point out because we're here is this classwork on stream. It's defaulted to show condensed notifications, but I like it to show the attachments and the details so students can see any work that you have posted. Under here, this is going to be important towards the end of our session where by default, students can post and comment in the stream. Some teachers turn that off and only allow students to comment, and some teachers only want the teachers to be able to post and comment. So the default is that students can do both of those things, and I think it's important to have conversations with students about digital citizenship. One good thing is that you can mute a student if they're being a problem. You also, as the teacher, can delete anything that the student wrote. So what I want you to look at is Guardian summaries, and by default, the Guardian summaries are off. And so the first part of this for communication is to turn the Guardian summaries on. And I'll show you how that is going to impact your Google Classroom for allowing communication. So here in the handout, I go through all this about the Guardian summaries, and I let you know that they're off by default. You can turn them on. Also, if you have a lot of Google Classrooms, with one click, you can have all of your Google Classrooms have Guardian summaries, or you can hand pick which classes you want to have that or not. So now when you go to invite guardians, what you want to think about is making sure that you use your student information system and using the email that parents signed up with. So we use PowerSchool. And so if you look in this window, these are my three generic students. So here you can see, because I turned Guardian summaries on, this student does not have a Guardian added yet. So if you click on invite guardian, it's going to take you to this window and you can just copy and paste in an email. And then what it will say, so I'll just pretend that I'm the guardian and I'll click invite. So then what it's going to look like is you're going to see that this particular parent, and if I have another parent that I want to invite, I can invite an additional parent. I can keep adding parents. So I can invite another guardian because maybe, you know, there's a second guardian. So I'll just do that. So these two parents have been invited here. This one has been invited. This person has accepted. So if your guardian summaries are off and you turn them on and you see that there are already people listed here, that's because of this really awesome thing where once one person, one teacher in the district has invited a parent and the parent has accepted, the great thing is that anytime that student is linked in any other Google Classroom, that parent information stays connected. And that's really helpful. So in our middle school, we start with the guardian summaries in 6th grade. So by the time that they get to 7th and 8th grade and then into the high school, we've done a lot of the work of getting the guardian summaries listed. So here's what happens with the guardian summaries. The guardian is going to get an email and they can choose to ignore it or decline it. They don't have to join just because you ask them to. So parents totally have control over that. Once they get the email, they get to decide whether they want a daily summary or a weekly summary. So daily is only Monday through Friday and weekly is on Fridays. And I feel like they come like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. The students the guardians do not have to have a Gmail in order to accept your invite. So they can be anything. They could be Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, whatever. However, if they want to change the frequency, then they would have to go create a Gmail in order to alter what they wanted for a delivery method. You can remove the teacher. The teacher can remove the guardian, but you want to be aware of the fact that the guardian will get an email that you've removed them. So here I took a screenshot, but I also showed you that for these first 2 students, I've invited them, the guardian, but they haven't accepted. In this situation, both parents have accepted. And then in the last one, I haven't even sent them an email. So what happens with the email is the guardian summaries is when you create an assignment, what the guardian is going to see is anything you write for a title of the assignment, the due date, and the guardian is going to see everything you write in the instructions section. So to improve communication with families during this remote learning time and also just regularly is to make sure that the instructions are as detailed as possible. This way, the parent can ask their child, okay, so you have this assignment due on the U.S. Senator's project, and then here in this instruction section, if you make sure that you give a lot of detail. This is where you can refer to handouts. This is where you can refer back to your learning targets. You can talk about why the assignment is important. First of all, every student is going to get that email, but also every parent is going to get that email. So they'll have a lot more information about the assignment. They won't be able to see any private communication. They won't be able to see their own child's work unless their child logs in and shows the parent the actual handout or their actual work. So you don't have to worry about parents being able to see private communications between you and other students, or even you and their own child, but they will see the title of the assignment and any of these instructions. So I think that is one excellent way to improve communication using Google Classroom. A lot of people don't have the Guardian summaries on and then don't know what the Guardian summaries will get. So the next thing is when you're in the Google Classroom, when you go to the people section, there's a couple of things that you can do. So first, I can click on this particular student. I can go to the 3 dots and I can email that student. It's going to open up my email and it's going to send a message. So if there's ever a reason that I want to email a student as I'm sitting here looking at their work, I can do this right in this section. I can also click on this and it will check every single student. So if you have like 20 or 40 or 60 students in your Google Classroom, then I go to actions and I say email. And what's really nice is my email is going to open up. It's going to start a message. And the great thing is it's going to actually blind CC these students. And I'm going to send the email to myself because that's what the industry standard is. I'm going to have a subject of work it is due, and I'm going to put in the body of the message, and then I can send that. So I can email all of my students. I also can click here and I can click email guardians. And this is going to do the same thing. It's going to open up a message to all of these guardians. Notice that it actually is going to blind CC the email to the parents that actually didn't officially accept the invite. Again, it's going to blind CC so you're not sharing all your parent emails with each other because people get frustrated with that. So when you have your Google Classroom set up, you have your guardian summaries there, and you have all the students listed there, you can use Google Classroom to send these emails so you don't have to go to email, set up a Google group, figure out all of that. You can literally come to Google Classroom, and if you come to this people section, you have the ability to manage all of that right here in Google Classroom. So here under this batch email, you can do all of that. And so this small little email all guardians is something that Google added several months ago. And so that's a nice way. That's an excellent communication tool to get all your guardians on the same page. One thing that I've taught people to do in my district is people who have clubs or sports to create a Google Classroom for that. And this is a great way to get all of the coaches and to get all of the athletes so that their parents are getting the same information. So that ability to push that information to all those people is an excellent communication tool. And I told you here about the optional instructions area and where you can take advantage of the fact that this is what the guardians are going to see. So that's really handy. The next thing that you can do in Google Classroom is every Google Classroom that is created, there's a separate Google Calendar that gets generated. So you'll notice that you can go to this Google Calendar. And what I've taught the teachers in my district to do is to go to their calendar, make their calendar public, and put their calendar on their website. Anytime something is added in Google Classroom and you give it a due date, it will go to that calendar. So students have access to that calendar and you have access to that calendar. But if you want to improve communication at home, what you can do is put that calendar on your website, and then everybody who goes to your website can see it. I know right now in this remote learning that it's hard for people to go to all these different websites and look for different things. So this calendar might be really helpful so that parents can see what to do next. They can ask their child with an assignment by name, and then the parent and the child can have a conversation about the assignment. So I think it's hard for people right now in this remote environment to kind of be bouncing all over between multiple classes and trying to field emails and look for information. So if you put these calendars on your website, then that would be really helpful. And so I'm going to just demonstrate how to do that. So I'm going to open up a new tab. And I'm going to go to my website. The new Google Sites has made this calendar integration really easy. So what I can do is I can come down to the bottom here, and if I go to my insert tools, one of the options is a calendar. So when I click here, you'll see all of my calendars. So what I want to make sure is that I put in the correct calendar. So I want my test calendar to be the one that I'm going to put in. So I'll just put this band one in. So I'll just put this calendar in here. And so when I publish this, the parent's going to be able to see that at 4:29, this assignment is due here. And so then you would publish this, and that would be how it would work. When you're in you have to go to your calendar. So let me open up this and go to my apps launcher. If you go to your calendar, the way to get your calendar to be public, so these are all my calendars. So let's go to this band calendar. I'm going to hover over the three dots. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to settings and sharings. This part is scary to people. It says make calendar visible to the public, and you're going to say, okay. You have to do that, or else parents won't be able to see it because they don't have a login for your district. So now I've got that information so parents can see it. And so I have that information here. So we went to Google Calendar, we went to the three dots, we went to sharing, we made it available to the public. We said, okay, and then we went and we put it in to the website. So that's another way to improve communication when you're using Google Classroom tools. And so if you make your Google Calendar public, everything going forward will automatically go to your website. You never have to go to your website again. You just have to make sure when you're in Google Classroom, you give the assignment a due date, and then it will show up on the calendar. If you have an assignment and you don't give it a due date, or you make an announcement, those things will not go to the calendar. So if you want to make it easy, give everything a due date. Even if you change the due date because you decide the kids need more time, what you want to do is get that calendar set up, get it on your website. And usually what I'll have people do is I'll have them say something really specific. So I had done some training, and I tell teachers to make like a homework page. And so I'll have them write some information here so it'll direct students to look at the calendar. So just make sure your Google Classrooms are named in a way that makes sense. So if you teach 4 blocks of the same thing, and so I'll have a disclaimer to students and to parents to prompt them, because here are these 3 Google calendars on your website. But if you can get this set up, so maybe instead of homework, it says remote learning schedule, and you put in the work and when it's due, it will go onto these calendars, and that's going to help communicate all that you're trying to do in this remote learning so that people have due dates. So hopefully that is something that you can do. It's another way to use Google Classroom to communicate so that you can cut down on the number of emails, and that you can be more efficient, so that as you enter something in Google Classroom, which hopefully you're doing anyway because that's the platform that you're using, you're communicating all this extra information to parents. Guardians are getting the guardian summaries at the end of the day. Parents can go to your website and look at the calendars and see what's due. So you can email parents and guardians directly from within Google Classroom. So the next thing I want to do is look at these other communication options in this remote learning environment are going to be really critical for keeping up with some of that communication to students about assignments, because you're not seeing them in the classroom every single day. So I'm going to go back to my Google Classroom, and I'm going to go to the stream. So one of the things that when you used to go to add an assignment, making an announcement was something that you used to be able to do. So now it looks like that option is gone. So teachers will ask me all the time, how come when I go to the plus sign, I don't see announcements here anymore? And so people think it just went away. What Google did was they put it in this stream section. So this first thing will show your profile picture and it will say, share something with the class. This is what I was saying was when you were in the gear, you can shut it off so kids can't start any kind of message. And some people do that. Again, I think that it's better to have a conversation with students and you can mute them and you can delete things that they write, but it's an opportunity in a closed environment for people to see this information. So if I click in here, I can say, you know, good morning. I can attach something. Oh my gosh, I can't type. I can add something from Google Drive, from a link, a file, a YouTube video. I can send this to multiple classes if I teach 4 or 5 different sections. I can send it to all the students in a particular section, or I can send this announcement just to one person. So Google gives me some options. I can post it right now, or I can schedule it to go at a certain time, or I can save it as a draft and come back and finish it later. So this I consider kind of classroom chatter. This is the area where people are just saying hi, they're talking how they're doing. So this stream here is something that you could encourage kids to just talk appropriately because, you know, they're in a remote environment right now. So they can have information there. So here I wanted to show you that this student said something like, I don't like remote learning. And so now other people can comment on this. I can come in here and I can delete this comment, or I can also mute sample student. So sample student, well, I can mute this person. I can make it so that other students won't see it. I can delete this post. So you get a lot of power here. So use the stream to post kind of classroom chatter, some of the fun stuff that you would be doing in the classroom. Make the decision of whether you're going to allow students to start posts or just respond. Look at things that people are writing. Make sure that you give feedback to students and expect that they're going to test those boundaries, and then work with them to develop that responsible digital citizenship, because that is how students are going to learn. If you just mute them and you just delete everything, then that makes it hard for them to move forward. Yes, there should be consequences for inappropriate things, etc. But for Google Classroom, this is a great communication area, this stream section where you can send what I consider classroom chatter. What's nice is another thing that you can do is when you're in an actual assignment. So here's an assignment. And if I click View Assignment and I go to the Instructions section, you will see that there's an ability for people to talk about this actual assignment. So here for communication, this is another way that Google Classroom can give you to communicate. So notice the sample student wrote, "This is hard, can you help me?" So I can say, yes, what is the issue? Now, every person in this Google Classroom is going to be able to read this information. So this way, you might have other students who are going to answer before you. And this allows or encourages collaboration on an assignment. So you want to think about what it is that you're assigning and how kids are going to be able to get help from somebody besides you, because I'm guessing you're pretty busy dealing with all kinds of issues in this distance learning, and that you can have this be a place where kids can help each other. Now, of course, you want to think about what the assignment is and whether kids are helping each other with the answers versus just helping with information. So you have to think about what you're posting. And if this chatter is just about clarification, you know, if you're trying to do an assignment where it's like an assessment, you want to be a little more careful of what kind of information kids can say here. But what's really nice about this section is, again, this is another way to enhance or improve communication in a platform that you're already using. So guide students to this section, tell them to post their questions here, tell them to respond to each other appropriately, and then you can enhance kind of the understanding of this assignment by just using this classroom section. Now, let's say on this assignment, though, I'm looking at sample students' work and I want to talk to the student. So the student put the same comment in this private comments section. This is hard, can you help? But notice it says add private comment. I can say, sure, what's going on? What I like about this compared to just emailing back and forth with the student is everything that we're discussing about this assignment is staying in Google Classroom connected to the assignment. So sometimes a student will email you with like multiple things and you might forget to go back to the email and answer something else. But here, this is the assignment that they're doing, and you can be having this conversation back and forth over here. So this, only the student will see this, not the whole class. So if I go back over here, you'll see that these are my 3 students in the class. These 2 students haven't done anything yet. So what I can do is, I could send them an email, but I can click on their name and I can say, hi, Laurie. I am wondering if you are having trouble. I don't see any work yet. And so I can click send. So again, this conversation is going to be connected to this assignment. The student is going to get this prompt. If they've shut off their notifications for emails, which we have a lot of students do, that might be the one time that you actually have to email them, because we have students that go in and shut off their Google Classroom notifications so they don't go to email, and then they don't, know that they're getting these notifications. But you would get an email that says that the student responded, would say, Laurie's demo sent you a private comment. This student would get a comment saying, Laurie Prewandowski sent you a private comment. So then they can see what the comment is in email, and then they come back in here and we can have this ongoing conversation. So using this private comments section, think of it as a private conversation. You have these all the time in the classroom, and kids need this kind of information from you. They need, hey, good job, good to see you, how's it going today? But instead of starting all these separate emails, come here into this assignment and just give them a little boost, give them a little information, give them a, hey, how's it going? Are you having any trouble? Whatever. So this private comment section is just a great place for you to have this back and forth with the student. And I feel like in this remote learning environment, it is so important to utilize this private comment section. Everything is here for you to be able to, it's very transparent. Someone else can see, like if you're principal is wanting to know how you're communicating with students, you can bring this screen up and you can show that you're having these conversations. So use Google Classroom and this private comment section to share and communicate with the students. So that's another place that Google Classroom allows you to communicate with students. All right. Classroom calendar, just trying to stay on track here. Okay. So the last thing I want to do is and then I'm going to open it up for questions or any other feedback that the participants who are here might have. So another thing that you can do in Google Classroom to enhance communication, and what I like about this is it's all asynchronous. when you're working with students in Google Meet, or if you use Zoom and you have a Hangout, students who can't come on right away sometimes feel disconnected. But this way, when you're using Google Classroom, whenever they have a chance to log on, they'll be able to see what's going on. They'll be able to participate at their, on their time frame. Maybe they have to be at their parents' work and they can't be on their parents' work internet, so they can't join the Google Meet. When they get home, they can have these nice conversations from you. So I'm going to show you one last way in Google Classroom to be able to have communication. And this is a way that's around learning too. So it's not just going to be the some of the other communication we've been talking about so far. So I'm going to go to classwork and I'm going to create a question. And it's this question type that I'm going to use here. I'm going to click on this. So again, if you're trying to do a formative assessment and you don't want students knowing each other's answers, then this is not the kind of question I'm talking about. This is when you want to pose something and you want there to be some conversation about whatever it is the topic is that you are working on. And so right now we're doing something in US history on senators. So I'm gonna put that they're picking a senator and they're looking at a bill that was trying to be passed about slavery. So I can do Senator's Project. And so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my question. So I might want them to watch a YouTube video about it. So I'm going to be able to say, and again, guardian summaries, parents are going to get whatever you put. So I'm going to say, watch the video and then explain one way that your senator was in favor of slavery. What's important is over here, whether students can reply to each other and whether you let them edit their answers. If you uncheck this so that students can't reply to each other, then you're not going to have a conversation. So you're not going to be able to use the communication tool like what I'm hoping that you will see. So also, you can't end up having a reply to the student. So I'm going to leave that checked. And I am going to ask this question. And so this question type in Google Classroom, I feel like is maybe an underutilized opportunity to generate some conversation and communicate with people. And in this remote learning environment, this is a really great tool. Lots of teachers used to have like a bell ringer or a question of the day on their board, and there was all kinds of conversation over it, and teachers are feeling like they've lost that. So I'm going to pop into my student one so you can see what happens with the student. So I'm sample student and I'm going to click on this question. And so here, when I come to this assignment, if I'm going to type my answer, I'm going to say, my senator was in, I'm not going to finish this whole thing, in favor of slavery. So look, I have to actually turn in my answer before I can see what anyone else has done. Notice I can have a private conversation with my teacher, and notice that I can have a class comment over here. However, my actual assignment that maybe you are going to give me some credit for has to be turned in first. After I turn it in, and I didn't allow them to edit their response, I'm going to click turn in. They're going to see this that says see classmate answers. So this is where now, if there were 5 or 6 different students in here, students would be able to ask and answer and respond to each other sort of within what their answer or question was. So just to recap, in Google Classroom, if you ask that kind of question type, you want to think about a way that you can ask a type of question that allows people, so I can say, can you expand on this? And so other students will be able to see that when they come in. So if I wanted it private just to the student, I would want to have a private comment. I think you need more detail. So in this remote learning environment, but also when you're back in the classroom, Google Classroom allows a lot of ways for you to communicate with students, with their parents, with um, with not a lot of extra work. You're not generating emails from scratch. What you're doing is you're using the email features within Google Classroom. You're writing up what the purpose of your assignment was in the information section, and you are putting that information is going out in the Guardian summaries. You're giving a due date and details of the assignment. So students are and guardians are getting that information. You're using the group chat. Let me go back to this classroom here. You're using the section here in the stream to have just classroom chatter about how everyone's doing. Make this be all the non-classroom related stuff, and then the kids feel like they have a place to go and connect with each other. Needs to be appropriate. You will be able to create those classroom etiquette strands. Use the classwork section and you do group conversations there. So that is basically what I wanted to offer. And I am going to stop sharing. And so what I wanted to do is just open it up to if anybody has any questions, if you want to type it in the if you, I'm just looking at the chat right now. So if anybody here has any specific questions, I know that we were supposed to sort of come up with something for about an hour, but this is a really important topic, and I feel like I covered a lot of things, but if there's anything that anybody here wants any specific clarification on for communicating with Google Classroom, I can review something or go over something. I just want to open it up for individual questions from people who are here. So you can write something in the chat. You can do that little hand raise thing and I can unmute you. So again, take that link to the handout. You can make a copy of it. You can adjust the handout to work for your organization. Take your own screenshots if you don't want to use mine. I tried to use my generic Google Classroom so that it wouldn't interfere with names. I'm happy for you. So the link is in the beginning of the chat. It says, here's my handout for today. If you go up a little bit, you should be able to click on that. It's in the chat. Did you find it? I can put it in again if need be. I'll just add it in again at the bottom here. All right, so Google Classroom is amazing. There are lots of built-in features for communication, from the traditional email to posting things on the calendar and putting it on your website, private conversations with students. Kids, I think, are missing that. We are currently putting our daily agenda in the announcements. So parents can see the announcements when they get the Guardian summary, but that doesn't come until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the email. And if parents selected to get a weekly summary, then they won't get that till Friday. So if the announcements doesn't have a due date on it and you have it, it won't go to your Google Calendar, so parents won't be able to see that. So workaround, I don't think you can give an announcement a due date. So if you wanted parents to see the daily agenda and I, I think you're going to have to make it an assignment with a due date and then have the calendar on your Google Classroom. What we did was we had a Google Doc embedded into our district, our school website, and we had that kind of information there. And then we said on that Google Doc, let me go back to sharing my screen and I can show you what we did in our district for the workaround. We didn't want to overwhelm. So we created a Google site. And so this is a website that we made and we have each one of our clusters. So what we did is we embedded a Google Doc. So I gave share permissions to the Google Doc only to the teachers in 6.1. And so they update this every week. So we made this Google site public so that parents could go to one place. So if you had a child in 6.1, you'd be like, okay, to your child. And we told people basically this is for parents to know what the assignment is. And so, but we tell the kids, you go and complete the assignments in Google Classroom. So this was a one-stop shopping so that people could have, the parents could have the information someplace live because they can't get into Google Classroom. So I don't know if that helps. If you want to create something like this and put these Google Docs in on your public website that has generic information, but then the students can go in and do the work privately in Google Classroom. Yeah. So that is, that's what I think. If you want to do something like that, where you have a Google Doc that gives that information in your public website, but then guides the students to the private place to be able to actually do the work. Because sometimes you want a more detailed handout or you want the work being done in Google Classroom so kids aren't emailing it, but the parents have no way to see that information. So that was what we did, that Google Doc. Teachers update it weekly, give little snippets, just enough, and then we guide the students. We do that on Blizzard Bag days, so that was an easy thing for us to just, was like, give the assignment for transparency, just enough detail so the teacher knows, and the parent knows, and then move the student into Google Classroom. Yeah, so that, and then parents can go to one place and they can ask for, tell the child, okay, your teacher said you're supposed to be working on this thing in Khan Academy, so show me what it is, make sure you're doing it. Yeah. So any other questions? So I am recording this and I will share it with the people who set up this webinar. So that way, if you have teachers that you think might benefit from watching me do it, then I can give that information out and people can watch it there. Anything else for anyone who's here to, as I said, I know we're talking about an hour, but I know time is pretty precious now. I wanted to get the details out, get you the handout that you could look at your leisure, have it recorded so you could go back and watch it later, and get any questions that you have right now answered. All right, well, thanks for coming. I hope that this helped. Tomorrow I'm going to do one on Screencastify, and I'm going to show you ways that as a teacher you can look at Screencastify and create explanations of your assignments and how students can use it to show what they know. For the recording, I will share that with the people who promoted this learning environment, and I'm not sure, they'll probably put it someplace. The recording doesn't record until I end the meet, so I can't like give you a link to it now. So I will give that to Cindy and let her decide how she's going to get that information out. All right.